Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olade Lutubemi. I'm a co-founder in Accounting Yard, and I'm welcoming you all to Power BI as a tool for data analysis and visualization, right? And this is going to be taken by a very sound professional. His name is Taufik Bello, and currently he heads the business intelligence unit of a very large agri business in Nigeria. Yeah. Now, we generally advise people to we're going to use your real name, right? So that we can interact and ask questions where necessary. And you can also contribute, right? And your contribution can come through Zoom, or sorry, through the chat box. So you can just mention comments. If you have a question, there will always be opportunities to ask questions. At least during the course of the webinar, there will be two sections where participants will be given the opportunity to ask questions as the webinar progresses, right? But as much as possible, for us to get the best value out of the webinar, it's generally advisable that we stay at mute at all time, and we only ask questions through the chat box. And when the opportunity to ask questions, we get to interact then. Yeah. Now, where are we, right? I know a lot of us have joined this webinar. Not everybody knows about Accounting Yard, right? And basically, we're an academic inclined community-based platform that focuses on training and career advancement of accountants, right? So when we founded Accounting Yard, right, we're very young in our career, and we identified that a lot of people struggle between what happens in theory and what happens in practical accounting. And not everybody gets the best of experience in terms of their reporting lines, or people, they are people that are senior colleagues within the unit, right? So they generally reach out to people outside of that space to get coaching or build personal development, right? So based on this, right, we started with the WhatsApp group. Later on, we grew up into a Telegram group. And right now, basically, we're on almost all social media platforms: LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. We're not very active on IG, but we are present on all these platforms. And basically, on a daily basis, mostly during the course of the week, we share content that would help educate and improve the knowledge of accountants, right? And are very practical focused. Yeah. Apart from this free content, usually disputes like the webinar we're currently attending, we also have very friendly trainings at very reasonable prices, right? So that accountants can always build a capacity and not wait till they work in a very structured organization to get opportunities to learn, right? And we've been doing that over the years. We've been in existence for over 5 years now, and people who have attended our training will tell you that we deliver value beyond the cost of the training itself. And we don't want to stop that, right? We want to continue impacting knowledge in terms of accountant and always evolve, right? So we get to learn from you, and you also learn from us. Yeah. Now, currently, in terms of ongoing trainings, we have the accounting circle and the manual accounts, professional manual accounts. Currently, this weekend is the last class for the August training, and we'll come back in October for general ledger management and professional manual accounts. In September, we have the Tax Practice Academy, right, where we generally get people to understand a very practical standpoint of taxes, right, from computation of CIT and ET, capital allowance, to withholding tax, VAT, and also contemporary issues, right, and obviously the new Finance Act. Yeah. Then come November, we have the Audit Practice Academy. So if you're someone who is you're seeking practical knowledge in terms of auditing, we have a training specifically for you, right, and where you can actually get to understand audit from a very practical standpoint. Yeah, we have the Accounting League for people that are fresh out of school or they are currently in university, where we try to use a concept known as gamification to improve the knowledge of young accountants, right? So at the very early stage of their career, we need to identify them early enough, and they are able to start building their knowledge, right? So if you have cousins, friends, relatives, siblings, right, that are in university, we encourage them to follow Accounting Yard, and they can participate in this tournament and start building their knowledge in terms of accounting from a very practical standpoint. Yeah. Now, today, our guest speaker is Taufik Bello. Like I said, is the lead of business intelligence at Babanguna. He's a very resourceful person, and he has a very good understanding around data analysis and visualization, mostly using Power BI, right? He has been involved in various projects, and he has been able to add value, adding recommendation to Babanguna as a business and various organization he has worked in, right? So he's very vast, right? He understands how data plays a critical role in the future of businesses. Yeah. So this webinar is centered around that, right? So we are very futuristic in Accounting Yard, and we know the importance of the role Power BI will be playing for corporate organization in the near future. Right now, they say data is the new oil, right? So this webinar is here to help you start preparing your mindset to identify what relevant opportunities come from data analysis and how you can yourself can start playing in that space and build competence, right? I was watching a program, also I think a reel on IG, and I saw was an individual who had worked in the data space and was talking about how he had progressed in his career and how his earnings improved so very significantly, and he's based in the US, right? And that, trust me, was a lot of money, right? I know, yes, to a large extent, we know money meets our basic needs, and obviously there are opportunities for us, right? And obviously everyone will want to have a better sense of earnings, and also in terms of making an impact. Data analysis is the way to go in the near future. Yeah. Now, I'll leave attendees' expectation to be attended to by our guest speaker. And what I'll just generally say is that we can just only send a message saying we're happy to have you, Taufik, and we don't take your presence for granted, and we appreciate your time, right? We can just send a message in the chat box, just welcoming Taufik, right? Round of applause, whatever means you mean to just appreciate him, please. That'll be very helpful, right? And that's just to encourage people like him, and we have more guests like him, right? Now, at the moment, we have Power BI. The idea is we don't want to even miss an opportunity. Every single month, we want to be having webinars that would help, obviously, improve accountants, current developments, and things that will educate accountants, right? And help them improve their knowledge in terms of accounting and where they should be. Yeah. So that's where I will stop for now. And I would just welcome Taufik, where he would now be the one to take up the next space. Yeah. So thank you, Taufik. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Taufik, I don't know if you're talking, we can't hear you. Yes. Okay, Taufik, I've made you co-host, so you should be able to talk now.
All right. Thanks. Thank you very much, Dilly, for the introduction, and thanks everyone for joining this webinar. I'm seeing we have about 42 people here. So thanks for taking out the time to attend this webinar. We all appreciate it. I myself appreciate it because it feels nice joining, taking this webinar and then seeing so many people on 47 now. Great. And seeing so many people on the call. So like Dele rightly mentioned, my name is Taufik Bello. And I currently manage the business intelligence team at an agri-tech called Babanguna. And I've been doing this for a little over 5 years now. So I've worked in companies such as Procter & Gamble, also worked with Stanbic IBTC as a data engineer, and I'm currently with Babanguna managing the team. And so the aim of this is really to talk about Power BI and its application. One funny thing I get a lot of times when I tell people I work in an agri-tech sector is, oh, you're working in agriculture. So what are you doing there? What's data analysis about? What are you doing? What do you use Power BI for? Which I kind of find interesting because, again, I feel people limit themselves to the applications of some of these tools and applications that we have. Again, like Dele said, people say data is the new oil, and every forward-thinking company, every forward-thinking individual is trying to make good consumption of whatever data they have. And it's one thing to know how to analyze the data. It's one thing to know how to do your analysis, use Excel and all of that thing. But another very important thing that a lot of people don't talk about so much is how you then present all of these analysis that you've done. how you visualize it, how you communicate to management and the people required. So I'm guessing we're going to kick this off. I'll start sharing my screen soon. Again, I'm going to try to make this as interactive as possible. So it's not just me talking, and in order to begin trying to make this as interactive as possible, please let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah,
Can I?
yeah, I can see your screen, Taufik, right? Yeah, on what are your expectations for this session?
Okay, so please show of hands. I'd appreciate if I could get three to four people raise their hand and Billy would proceed to unmute them. And I'll just like some of you guys to tell me about your expectations for this session. So what do you expect within the next 1 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes that we're going to be having this session? So please raise your hand if you want to contribute. So Billy, we can allow you to unmute.
Yeah, sure. So people can raise their hands, right? And I can also randomly just pick people, right? Just in case. So for example, I can see Abosode Are. So then I think I will mute her to just see what the expectation is. Sometimes people are shy to talk, so let's get them to talk.
Okay, but I think Ola has raised his hand, so.
Okay, so let me start with Ola then.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Abosode.
Yeah, good afternoon. Why do you have to mention my name? Because I was so shy that I don't want to raise up my hand. And
Well,
you just mentioned my name.
alphabetical order, right? Your name just came off first.
All right. I'm here to learn. I'm here to know what Power BI is all about and how I can use it to my advantage and to upgrade myself, my career path. So thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to learn. I appreciate it.
All right, great. Thanks, Abosede. Okay, Ola. And apologies, I don't know. Ola could be a guy or a girl, but I assumed you're a guy, so fingers crossed on being right.
Okay. So Ola can talk now.
Okay, that's
Hi.
good.
So my expectation is to understand what the Power BI is all about. And as a chartered accountant, how can it be useful to me in my daily work as an accountant? So that is my expectation on this webinar. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. So can I please get one more person? One more person. Okay, Dilly, doesn't seem like anybody wants to. Oh, okay, Quadri.
So Quadri, let me unmute Quadri. Okay, so Quadri, you can talk. Hi, Quadri. Yeah, Quadri.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure, we can hear you, Quadri.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So first of all, thanks to Accounting Yard and thanks to Taufik for this great session. So my expectation for this webinar is to understand what Power BI is and its usefulness as an accountant, just to for personal development and improvement in career path. So that was just it, basically. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone that spoke. All right, so now what are we going to be covering in this session? So basically these four areas are what we're going to be covering. Trying to understand what Power BI is, what the application of Power BI could be to accounting, what are the skill sets required in order to be able to use Power BI effectively well, and also some of the comparative tools, the competing tools for Power BI within the market. Before I proceed, I think it would also be very important to just get an idea. So please, once again, I'm not asking anyone to talk this time, but please just raise your hand if you've used Power BI before, or you're very familiar with what Power BI is and how it works. So please, within the next 30 seconds, 1 minute, just raise your hand if you've used Power BI before or you're very familiar with it. Okay. Uzamaka. Really? Just one person. Interesting. Okay, David. Okay, interesting. So two. All right, so this I want to assume this would be a relatively impactful session for everyone. All right. So the next question, again, I would appreciate if someone could two people can raise their hand and unmute themselves. Again, I'm trying to make this as interactive as possible. So I'll go with Uzo, Amaka, and David, since you both raised your hand and said you're familiar with it. So basically my question is what is Power BI and why is Power BI a useful tool? So I'll start with Uzo, Amaka. Where is Uzo, Amaka?
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Uzo, Amaka.
Yeah, hi. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay, hi. Power BI compared to what's it called? Microsoft Excel is much more diverse in the sense that one advantage or one head-on for Power BI is the fact that you can pull items, data sets from a wider range of what's it called? From a wider range of buckets compared to Excel, so you have, and another very powerful tool with Power BI is the Power Query aspect of Power BI. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. So why do you think it's a useful tool? Why do you think it's a useful tool to have?
Myself?
Yeah, I mean there are two questions: what Power BI is and why you think it's a useful tool. So
Yes, I said number one is the fact that you can pull data sets from a wider range of what's the word now? Compared to Microsoft Excel, with Power BI, you can pull out data sets from a larger what's it called, range of I don't know what the word to use, compared to Microsoft Excel. Then there's an aspect of Power BI called Power Query, a very powerful tool in Power BI. So this is what makes Power BI a much more diverse tool for data visualization compared to maybe Microsoft Excel.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you very much. So David.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening, David.
Okay, yeah, the truth is, I've not really used it for that long, but I know I just have a little idea during my training session. That's when I use it for a while. And what I can actually pick out from it is, I know Power BI is basically analytical tools where we use to analyze data just like Excel. So the usefulness of Power BI basically is what I can actually picture as one of the relevance of this Power BI is visualization and how it summarizes data. It's a kind of tool that even when you use the data, you can still update that data. And by the time you update that data, even your visualization also reflects the correct changes in those data. So that is what I can say concerning the Power BI.
All right, great. Thanks everyone. Okay, so let's proceed. Now, obviously, if you go over the internet and you try to Google what is Power BI, you're going to see a lot of different definitions. Now, this is from Microsoft themselves, and they call Power BI a unified, scalable platform for self-service and enterprise business intelligence, which can connect to and visualize any data and seamlessly infuse the visuals into the applications we use every day. Now, really and truly, that's a lot of words to describe what Power BI does. There's also another platform called TechTarget, which describes Microsoft Power BI as a business intelligence platform that provides non-technical users. Now, the reason why I kind of like brought this particular description into this presentation is because of this part where it says non-technical business users. I think that's very important for everyone to understand that you don't need to have technical skills. You don't need to be a data analyst. You really don't need to be a data professional in order to be able to use Power BI. But yeah, it's a platform that provides non-technical business users with tools for aggregating, analyzing, visualizing, and sharing data. Again, another reason why I love this definition is because it explains that Power BI is not just for visualizing. You can also use it to aggregate your data. You can also use it to analyze your data. And you can also use it to share your data with different stakeholders. But personally, if someone asks me what Power BI is, I'm basically just going to tell them Power BI is Microsoft Excel on steroids, which is something Uzo Amaka also kind of mentioned. Basically, personally, I feel like Power BI is really just Microsoft Excel, but a way more advanced version of Microsoft Excel. So yeah. Now, the next thing, who uses Power BI? Again, like I said, the users are not limited to data professionals such as data scientists, data engineers, or data analysts. Power BI is a platform that is intentionally designed so non-technical users, again, emphasis on non-technical users. So non-technical users can easily create reports, manipulate data, and perform in-depth analysis operations. Again, so we're not caught up with the idea that Power BI is used by data analysts or data scientists or data engineers or business intelligence analysts also. We can see this is clearly a definition, again, from Microsoft, which shows that it was designed so that non-technical users can also use the platform to manipulate data and all of that. But typically, again, when we have some certain job descriptions, we already know that these people definitely use Power BI. So these are the very common job descriptions that we hear about, and we know that, okay, yes, this ones, they definitely use Power BI. Examples are business intelligence analyst, the business analyst, data analyst. So certainly once you hear of these job roles or you see these job titles, you know that one particular requirements of these positions is being able to use the different BI tools we have. And now, the next slide. Now we're talking about what are the alternatives to Power BI. Again, just giving an intro into what Power BI is, and also identifying now you might not want to use Power BI. You might want to go with something else. Again, maybe you want to go for a cheaper tool, or you want to go with something your organization currently uses, or you just want to get more familiar with the other tools. So these are some of the alternatives to Power BI. Number one is Tableau, which again, I would say Tableau is Power BI's major competition. In terms of the two applications with the top market share, it's definitely Power BI or Tableau. Again, when you speak to a lot of data professionals, some of them will tell you they prefer using Tableau. Some of them will tell you they prefer using Power BI. And again, this might be myopic, but personally, I prefer Power BI. And again, the two of them, they have their pros and cons. Tableau is more of, if you're more interested in different visuals, if you're more interested in the interface, the type of visual you're building, the interaction between the visuals, how the dashboard looks like, I think Tableau has a better aesthetic than Power BI. The visuals look a lot better, and it's just very pleasing to the eye than Power BI is. Again, that's not to take anything away from Power BI. Depending on your level and your skill sets, you can definitely build dashboards that can match Tableau with Power BI. But why I prefer Power BI to Tableau is because, again, like I said, I see Power BI as not a data visualization tool. It's also a data analysis tool. And again, I think Uzamaka actually covered it very well. There's something within Power BI called Power Query, which, funny enough, it's also on Microsoft Excel. If you know how to use it, but Power Query is a very, very, very powerful tool. Again, if you know how to use it and you take your time to learn it, trust me, you can manipulate and transform your data into different things using Power Query. So yeah, I would say that's one advantage Power BI has over every BI tool I've used. So I've tried my hands on Qlik, I've tried Looker, I've also tried Cognos. Metabase is relatively, it's not something I've used so much, but I've also played around it a bit. But yeah, I would say in terms of analysis, aggregating your data, transforming your data, Power BI still remains king with that. But yeah, so we have Tableau, Qlik, Looker. So this was previously called Google Data Studio, but right now it's called Looker. We have Metabase, Alteryx, IBM Cognos, and again, maybe I'm old-fashioned or something, but I think Microsoft Excel would always be that powerful tool, regardless of every other thing coming, whether you're saying, oh, you're working with Python, you're using SQL, I still think nothing compares to Microsoft Excel when you're working with small data sets, by the way, because Microsoft Excel is kind of limited with regards big data sets. But if you're working with small data sets, I still think Microsoft Excel is king because it just gives you that ease of filtering your data, manipulating, and all of that. Okay, now the question is, now I have a question and I'd appreciate if maybe 3 people can raise their hands afterwards and just tell me what they think. Actually, 3 might be an overkill. 2 people. So now there's this table here. So between this and this, again, I'll go back. There's this table. So there's this spreadsheet that contains all of this. And there's this part here. So if I can have 2 people raise their hand, so I'll just put this slide here that shows both of them side by side. If I can have 2 people raise their hand and tell me which they prefer and why. Okay, Nzobe Chukwu.
Okay, I prefer the second format.
Okay, why? Why do you prefer it?
At a glance, one can actually see what's happening, unlike the first one where you will have to go through each of the rows and columns one after the other.
Okay. All right, thanks, Nzobe. We actually have a lot of people raising their hand. Okay, maybe let's go with all of them, but yeah. Okay, Alero. Thanks, Nzobe.
Okay, for me, like he said, I would prefer the second one, and it's because for you non-financial users, it will give them more informed information. Because it shows trends, it's able to give you more information, especially when you are looking at, as an accountant, what you're expected to provide in your organization, like financial performance, financial positions, and also if you are talking about maybe comparison. So it will also help really. And if, for example, you're given the short time to give a presentation, this second one should be able to give you all the information you need at a go, rather than you going through figures that could sometimes be boring to some persons and become too they may not understand it, but this one will really help even non-financial users. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Alero. Okay, Uzamaka.
Yeah, I would prefer the second one because the second one tells a story, a data story that is visually pleasing, and of course, at the click of a button, you'll be able to see trends, and it makes it easier to understand.
Okay, great. All right, finally, Precious.
Okay, hi everyone. Basically, this question is actually very funny to me because all I can see is a data set, and then the next thing I can see is something actually telling me what giving me the right information that I can work with. So basically, this other one has to talk about interpreting the data and then giving me answers to the abracadabra that is on the other hand.
Okay. Great. I can see Abosede has a hand up. Okay, let me one last time. Abosede, one last person.
Okay, thank you very much. We prefer going for the second option in the sense that, most times people tend to pictures, virtual pictures, it clicks more than the scattered information on the first table. So seeing the second option, which shows a virtual and a pictorial view of what the other first table was saying, this tends to click, and this with this you can see what and what's you can, at a glance, you can see the performance rates compared with the previous month or the year after or before, and with that you can easily make your decisions. But with the first table, before you put your 1 and 2 together, before you make a decision, it might take a while. So going with the second table, the second option is the best for me. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. So we had about 5 or 6 people talk, and 100% of those people went with the second one. So we have a unanimous decision. And that particular reason is why Power BI is a useful tool to everybody, not just data professionals, not just to accountants. So now let's even assume you're preparing your management accounts, you're doing, again, I'm not an accountant, so I can't speak a lot to the technical things you do, but it's just really about how you can go from, what was the word Precious used? I think it was Precious. He called it abracadabra, where you can go from these jargons that you have in the first part to this really easy to understand stuff that you have on this second part. So lo and behold, that really is what Power BI is useful for. I mean, when you think about the basics, again, there are other things that Power BI can really do, which we might not get into this session. Depending on feedback from the team and the availability, we can schedule another session with Accounting Yard, where we'll have a very detailed and practical session, and then we can go through the ways you can transform your tables, aggregate your data, clean your data sets, connect to different data sources on Power BI. But again, the aim of this session is really just to give an introduction to Power BI and talk about how it can be beneficial to accountants. And to be honest, like Precious said, this question is funny, and if we want to, we can end the session here, because again, we already know that 100% of people have said, oh, they prefer this second one. And that essentially is what Power BI, that's the advantage Power BI gives you. That's what Power BI does. Now, one funny question that someone might ask is, okay, you can do all of this on Excel also. Depending on your competence with Excel, you can also create all of these charts. I mean, you can create your line charts, you can create your pie charts, you can do your donut charts, you can do your 3D charts on Microsoft Excel. Now, the question is, why use Power BI when you can use Microsoft Excel? And yeah, so this next slide just kind of like talks through the strengths and weaknesses of Power BI compared to Microsoft Excel. And again, remember what I said about Power BI being Microsoft Excel on steroids. And ideally, what you can just see here is there's just one weakness, which is that Power BI is not relatively suited for tabular reports. Because again, with Microsoft Excel, when you have your tabular reports, you can filter down, you can easily filter on the tables and all of that. But on Power BI, what you have is just a table, and you would have to like export your data sets to do further analysis. But outside of this weakness, we can see what the strengths are. There are a lot of strengths here. Now, superior connectivity. Like, again, I think Uzra Amaka actually mentioned a lot of things that we're talking about on this webinar. So superior connectivity. Power BI is basically able to connect to much more data sets than Excel can. Again, depending on your competence, there's Power Query on Microsoft Excel also, so you can connect to some data sets. But with Power BI, the options you have are a lot more. The options you have are there are a lot more than what you can do with Power BI. You can connect to the web, you can connect directly to databases, whether it's MySQL DB, your Postgres DB, MongoDB. You can also you can write a Python script on Power BI to visualize your data set. Now I read somewhere as of last week or early this week that there's an update coming to Microsoft Excel where you'll be able to use Python also on Microsoft Excel, which is great by the way, but again, this is something that Power BI already has. Secondly, you have collaborative work. Now, one thing is with Microsoft Excel, what you're doing is really just on your laptop, except of course you're sharing on OneDrive and someone else can open the documents while you're doing it, but it's not something you can relatively share easily with other people. You have to send it via mail or put it on OneDrive or a cloud document where someone else can open it, but that person is not able to see what you're working on real time, which is another advantage Power BI has. So you can build your dashboards, you can do everything you want to do, and then you just publish it to Power BI service, and several people can. In short, in our organization, there are times when you have about over 100 people really looking at the same dashboards at the same time, and there's really nothing happening. It's not breaking, it's not lagging, there's nothing happening. So that's where Power BI also comes in. So many people can be viewing your report at the same time and nobody is even knowing about it. Nobody is feeling like, oh, this other person is doing something. This other person has filtered on this particular part, so I cannot do what I need to do. So that's not how it works. Another advantage is the automatic updates. So again, once you put in your data sets, you publish it on Power BI service, you're able to set up automatic refreshes, which allows you to give your stakeholders access to real-time information. For example, the way we have it in our organization is all of our dashboards are relatively are set up to refresh every 2 hours. So basically, it's not a case of somebody looking at the dashboard and you're seeing a report for last week or yesterday. Basically, what you're seeing, the report you're seeing when you go to our dashboard, you're basically seeing something that is T minus 2 hours. So basically, data sets that was gotten within the last 2 hours. It could be present data, it could be 1 hour ago, but you are sure that you're not viewing something greater than 2 hours ago, which then makes it easy for management or stakeholders to make decisions. Because again, they know they are not looking at old data, and whatever data sets they are looking at, they can use it to make informed decisions immediately. Again, another advantage, it's designed for big data. Now, Excel has a maximum of about 1 million rows. Not sure if I'm correct, but it's about 1 million for something thousand rows that you can have in Excel. And trust me, before you even get to that 1 million rows, your laptop is already acting funny. I don't care how powerful your laptop is. Before you get to 1 million rows, your laptop is already acting some type of way. And not just even the rows, when you now think about the multiple columns you can have in a particular spreadsheet. And again, I feel like everyone is an accountant here. You've had to work with like really large data sets. You have the idea of how Excel can be when your data set is a lot. And now think about when you have like too many formulas, you have your VLOOKUPs, your SUMIFs, you have your pivot tables all in the same workbook. You know how Excel is not really able to handle all of those easily, and a lot of times you see your spreadsheet crashing and hanging and all of that, which is where Power BI comes in also. Power BI is able to, basically Power BI can handle big data sets. You're talking millions, 2 million, 3 million rows. Power BI is able to handle it effectively. Another thing, ideal for dashboard and KPIs. Now, again, the idea behind Power BI is really, you can analyze your data set, but the end goal of Power BI is really to build your dashboards. And what do dashboards do? Dashboards are really to communicate performances. They are to communicate KPIs, which, again, Power BI is built in such a way where you can just do a drag and drop. For example, you drag a visual, you drag the column you want, you drag the value you want, and voila, you have something that shows you, okay, this is the performance and this is what we've been doing so far. And yeah, there's also the alerts bits. Again, this is something Power BI also does. So you can you can schedule alerts on Power BI where you can get email notifications when your metrics increase or decrease, or you can set a particular threshold where, okay, you want to say if your sales versus targets is below 50%, you want to get that notification. You can put that setup, you can set up all of that on Power BI. Now, again, obviously, we're not going to go through all of these things. Probably, again, like I said, we can schedule another session. Then we can go through all of this, but I don't think 1 hour, 30 minutes is enough time to go through Power BI and all of these things we're talking about. And finally, better visuals. Now, while, yeah, again, on Excel, you can create your visuals. Like I said, you can do your pie charts, you can do your bar charts, blah, blah, blah. But Power BI is really that tool that was built specifically for data visualization. And when something is built for a particular purpose, you know they are going to put in more emphasis on what the application was built for. So again, there's a community for Power BI aside the visuals that Microsoft themselves, they built and put in the application. You can also get custom visuals. These are visuals that were created by other individuals. Basically, someone like myself now, if I feel like I know how to do it, and there's a particular visual that I need that is not on Power BI, I can proceed to create that visual. Let's say I want something that's like an X and O kind of visual. I can create it and then I can publish it to the Power BI community. And anybody anywhere can really just, again, some of them are free, some of them are paid. But the idea is if I put it there, whether it's free or paid, any other person can easily access that visual and do whatever they want to do with it. So yeah, these are, again, this is not exhaustive. These are just some of the major strengths that Power BI has over Microsoft Excel. Now, the next thing we'll talk about is, the next thing we'll talk about is the skill sets. What are the skill sets required to prepare insightful dashboards? Now, one thing I would say is one particular thing, if you're building visuals, if you're building dashboards, is having a good, sorry, I clicked on this mistakenly. Yeah, having a good knowledge of business requirements. Now, what does that mean? Again, there are so many things you can analyze. There are so many things you can do. When you have a data set, you can do top 5 performer, bottom 5 performer, percentage sold, performance by country, performance by geography, performance by departments, performance by individual. There are so many things that you can do. And again, you're working with just a particular space. So it's important you understand what the business actually requires of you, what your stakeholders want you to communicate to them, and build your dashboards in line with that. Not just you putting everything you think of, saying, oh, I can see that I can put sales versus targets. Let me put this here. I can see that I can put performance by individuals. Let me put this here. At the end of the day, your stakeholder might not care about the individual performance and they just want to see performance by region, or they just want to see performance by products. So having a good understanding of business requirements is something that is key and essential to building insightful dashboards. Another thing that is very important is having a good knowledge of the different visuals and their applications. Now, what does that mean? It's being able to understand when to use a bar chart, when to use a line chart, when to use a pie chart, when to use a donut chart, when to use a scatter plot, when to use a block spot, when to use a tree map. Again, there are so many visuals. There are different visuals that you can use, but it's important to understand when it's ideal to use a pie chart versus using a bar chart, when it's ideal to use a vertical bar chart versus using an horizontal bar chart. So yeah, also good knowledge of best UI UX practice. Again, visualization, when you talk about visual, what does that mean? It means something you're looking at. And again, people might not mind, but it's better to build something that when somebody look at, it's pleasing to their eye. Like I look at what you built for me and immediately I enjoy what I'm seeing. I understand what I'm seeing. And again, I'm not sure if you don't know what UI UX is. UI UX basically means user interface, user experience. So basically, how does the dashboard look to somebody? And what's the ease of navigating through the dashboard? So how can I easily go from one report to the other? How can I easily go from one analysis to the other? Again, another skill set that is important is asking the right questions. And I think this is really just in line with the first one, which is good knowledge of business requirements. Now, understanding how to ask the right questions, because again, there are so many things you can do when you have your data sets. There are so many analyses you can run. There are so many visuals you can put together. But when you're able to ask the right questions, and I think this is something I always tell a lot of my team members, this particular one here is a very, very important skill set because it saves you a lot of effort and a lot of time. Because one thing is, if you don't ask the right questions, you're going to go back and then repeat what you've previously done. You're going to go back and start from scratch because then you don't ask the right questions. You build something, you go back to your stakeholder, and then they tell you, "Oh, this is not what we need. What we need is actually X, Y, Z, but you are giving us ABC." So it's very important that you ask the right questions in order to understand what the stakeholders require of your analysis. Also, understanding that less is more. Now, this is something that there's a lot of controversy around this. Some people might tell you, "Oh, no, I prefer to see a lot more information." Some will tell you that, "Oh, no, I prefer to see less." But again, personally and based on experience, I would always say less is more. Now, what do I mean by less is more? Just understanding that you don't need to put 1,000,001 visuals, 1,000,001 analysis on your dashboards. What you really need to put is just what are the important things? What are the important things? Again, emphasis on importance. What exactly is important to your manager, your CFO, your chief accountant, whatever the title is? What are those important things? And it's really just those important things that you're putting on your dashboards. And again, you're not killing your dashboards with so many colors. So you're seeing red in one place, you're seeing blue, you're seeing white, you're seeing gray, you're seeing green. So just understanding that using less. Again, if you're sticking to a color, ideally best practices is if you're using a blue background, it's best to select different shades of blue on your dashboard as opposed to using blue, red, yellow, green, brown, white. It's more aesthetically pleasing when you use just blue, but then you're using different shades of blue to communicate different things. But outside of that, there's also, again, this if you're using Power BI, it's important to understand DAX. DAX is called data analysis expressions. Now, again, one reason why I'm a lot more biased towards Power BI is if you have a good understanding of Microsoft Excel, DAX is relatively easy to learn because again, it's kind of like in line with the formulas you write on Microsoft Excel. You can easily understand what you need to do, and it wouldn't take you too long to understand the basic DAX expressions when you're using Power BI. And finally, this is a nice to have. It's not compulsory you have it, but if you have knowledge of programming languages such precisely SQL and Python, it gives you an advantage with regards using Power BI and building dashboards. And yeah, so now some of the resources you can use to learn Power BI. So YouTube, again, maybe with the uploaded webinar that will be on YouTube, I would also just share this link. And you can also just find it. You can find the link to all of these resources on the webinar on YouTube. But these are my favorite people. Again, this might be me being biased, but these are people that I think if you really want to learn how to use Power BI from basics to the complex things, these three people actually help. These are people that I go to every now and then, even after using Power BI for so long, to still learn from them. So you have a channel called Guy in a Cube. So they are basically two guys that really just play around Power BI. Everything you need to know about Power BI, you would learn it here. How to Power BI is also a very good resource to use on YouTube. And the interesting thing about all of this is they are free. These are free resources that you can use. Now, how to Power BI is, I like this because this guy shows you how to build visually pleasing dashboard. So how to ensure that your visuals are well aligned, how to use colors, how to position your visuals, the type of visual to use, how to create a background that is very different from what you've been using so far. Basically, just something that gives your dashboard, it takes your dashboard away from feeling like a dashboard to feeling like an application. again, this might seem complex, but I'm sure once you go through these YouTube pages, you would understand what I'm saying. And not only do they just tell you about this thing, they also show you how to do it, and they enable you to understand. They show you how to step-by-step ways on how to do it, and just again give you the ease of replicating all of these things. And finally, the third person I use a lot is also this woman, Leila Garani. Now, this is not just Power BI. This is me giving you guys extra resources, but for Microsoft Excel also, I think Leila Garani is a very, very useful resource to learn Microsoft Excel, learning formulas, learning pivot tables, Power Query. She's very good, basically. Another free resource we can use is Power BI or Microsoft Learn. Now, this is a free resource. You would learn the basics. You would learn how to use Power BI and import data sets. Import data sets, but I wouldn't say it's really encompassing. And then when you want to use some of these learning platforms, there's Coursera, there's also Udemy. So we have these two. There's Getting Started with Power BI Desktop, and then there's Microsoft Power BI Desktop for business intelligence. So again, I would include the links to all of this on the webinar on YouTube, so you guys can easily access all of these resources. So yeah, so I think we've come to the end of the presentation. So please, if you have questions, please just raise your hand. I'll be happy to take any questions you have. All right, so yeah, any questions? Please raise your hand if you have questions. If nobody has questions for me, I'll ask questions. Okay. Okay, so I'll proceed to ask my questions. Okay, Abosede. Abosede saved some of you. All right. Thanks, Abosede. You can unmute.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Taufik. Kudos for the introduction to Power BI. So when is our next class for digging deep into Power BI? Because I believe this is just a brief introduction of what Power BI is. And it will be a great privilege to see how you can bring in the experience you've gathered in Power BI to some, technical exercises or not technical exercises that we can relate with. So that's one about it. And again, how can someone get acquainted with Power BI? Well, at what duration or period? Maybe because for someone like a starter like me, someone who doesn't have any knowledge of Power BI before, so if I could start researching and learning from the basic, how fast can I pick up to becoming a guru in Power BI, just like you? Thank you.
Okay, all right, thanks, Bose. So with regards to the first question, so again, I understand, I'm sure a lot of people would have probably wanted to see us building a dashboard, but I think it's very important that we even understand what this application is before we delve into building a dashboard and visuals and all of that. And again, like I said, within the time frame we have, it's really not possible to introduce the application to everyone and then also now have the practical session. So again, I'm very sure you will get the update from Accounting Yard. I can't say what particular day or time it is, but I hope it's sometime soon. So we can have the session, which is focused primarily on practical session. So we have our data sets, we build a visual, ask questions about what some of you would even want to see, and then we do all of those things with the dashboard. Again, it's not something we can do within the time frame we have for this webinar. And I'm sure nobody wants to be on the call for too long. So we say we use 3 hours and then we talk about the introduction and start doing practical sessions. That'll take a lot of time. But yeah, definitely we would have another practical session set up, and yeah, we'll do that sometime soon. Again, I can't speak to the time, but you definitely get that feedback from Accounting Yard. With regards your second question, to be honest, I would say it's kind of tricky because learning is self-paced. Now it depends on your commitment to learning, and the available hours you have. I would want to assume everybody here is kind of like a working professional. And if that's not the case, I'm sure we all have something keeping us busy every now and then. Yeah. So again, it depends on how well you can create your learning schedule and then stick to it. Typically, I would say within a month is a lot, but if you're dedicated and focused to it, within a month, you can actually understand the basics of Power BI. You can really build visuals with Power BI. Now, to master it, to be honest, I don't think anyone can master it because there's a lot. I don't even think I know. I mean, I've been using it for God knows how long. And if I'm being honest with myself, I don't think I know 60% or 50% of what the application can do. So yeah, there's a lot going, and we all learn continuously. So yeah, I would say if you're actually focused on learning it and you take, say, maybe 2 hours every day to actually read up on Power BI, watch videos, download different data sets and build something with that data sets, speak to somebody who is actually working within the industry, share what you built with that person, get feedback, post on LinkedIn, get feedback from people within a month. And trust me, a month is a lot, but within a month, you would have mastered it from start to finish. Okay, any other question? So David, I would ask you to unmute. You said, wow. So I'm a bit curious, what's wowing you?
The aspect you said, when you make reference to yourself that you don't, like you only know just 60 to 50%. So I could just imagine how voluminous the Power BI can be, because even the same question Ari asked, I was actually thinking if one can dedicate maybe a week, you would master it. But when I hear a month, and even yourself, you say you have been on it for years now, and you only allocate 50% of what you know to Power BI, I was like, wow. So that was what actually wowed me.
Well, again, like I said, it's subjective. If you're saying master the basics, then yeah, a week, 2 weeks, you're able to just put tables together. But trust me, there are so many things. There are so many things in Power BI. Again, like I said, it's not just about the visuals. It's a very powerful tool where you can aggregate, transform, analyze, share, build visuals that are like applications, interactive visuals. In order to be able to do all these things, it's not something that you can just master. And again, remember, all of these applications, they have people dedicated to working on it. They have people dedicated to improving it. What can we do? What's the new thing we can bring to this application? So even if you're saying you know everything on Power BI now, by next month, next 2 months, there's a new feature that they brought that you need to start learning. But again, if you're more particular about the basics, okay, how can I bring in my data set from Excel or a CSV file? How can I build relationships between tables? How can I build the visuals based off of what I've done? Then yeah, a week, 2 weeks, you can get there. But again, there are so many things in Power BI. Now, not to sound confusing, but there's something called calculated columns. You have parameters, calculated measures, M language, DAX, data analytic expressions, and with DAX, similar to how you have like God knows how many formulas in Microsoft Excel. There's also so many formulas in DAX that you cannot memorize. You just need to know the ones you know. and then you keep learning as the requirement comes. So yeah, there's a lot. I'll not lie to you, there's a lot. But if you're interested in knowing just the basics, again, if it's the basics, then within a week, you can actually learn that. A week, 2 weeks, you can understand the basic stuff. Okay, any other question? Okay, let me ask, okay, Alams.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you for taking our time to share your knowledge on Power BI. I really appreciate. So my question is this. It's about sorry. So my question is if it's actually Excel that you will use in doing stuff on Power BI, or there is another set of application that you will use, or that is what I want to know, just whether Excel or there's another application of Power BI.
Sorry, can you come again? I didn't catch the question.
Okay, can you hear me clearly now?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Yeah, can you just rephrase the question? I didn't understand.
Okay, so I want to know whether it is Excel, Microsoft Excel, that you will use in doing whatever you need to do, or there is a separate application called Power BI.
Oh, there's a separate application called Power BI. Power BI is an application on its own. It's
Okay,
called Microsoft Power BI. Yeah.
Okay, so this can also be downloaded free and can be used for free.
Yes, it's a free application.
All right, thank you.
So where you need to pay is when you want to publish your report, when you want to share your report with different users. So you have to pay to get licenses for all of that. But in terms of just using the application, learning and understanding how it works, it's a free application. And again, I think what we'll do is on the on the webinar that will be uploaded to YouTube, we'll also include the link to download Power BI Desktop. So there's going to be the link to download this the application, as well as the link to the resources where you can learn Power BI. And yeah, Shegun, I can see your comments. Again, I promise you guys, definitely we're going to have probably a 2-hour session dedicated to just the practical. So we can walk through from start to finish how to build a dashboard. So again, that session, I'm not going to be explaining or talking about alternatives or anything. We're just going to start. We get our data sets, and immediately we go into building the dashboard and visuals. All right, any other question? Okay, seems like there's no other question. Okay, Manuel, you think you have a question. Okay, so I'll unmute you now, or if you're not able to unmute, you can just type it in the chat box.
Okay, sir. My question is this. You know, as accountants, we normally deal with financial statements. Is it possible to, use Power BI to, communicate our statement of financial position, statement of comprehensive income, and all of that with Power BI in an organization? And does it mean that with the introduction of Power BI, the role of accountants extends beyond using, QuickBooks, security, and all of that? Or there's this special rule for people who use Power BI in organization, like saying Power BI developer or something? So I don't know. Probably help us address that. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you once again for
the question. Yeah, that's actually a great question. But the question I would ask you is, again, Emmanuel, I would ask you to unmute, but I'll just ask one question. How do you see technology evolving? How do you see basically the jobs that we have now, how do you see them evolving? Do you think it's important to have some of these skill sets, or it's more important to just leave the work of a Power BI developer to the Power BI developer while you stick to using whatever application you've been using?
Yeah, so I feel like there's need for Power BI to come into the accounting space. Like you said, it gives the management ability to clearly understand the financial data. By providing quick insights to them using using various visuals. So I don't know if that's actually extend the skill of the accountant in an organization. That's looking at the future implication of Power BI. I don't know if you get my question.
Yeah, I get your question. But the way I would like to look at it, the way I would look at this question is just thinking about, personally, just think about how do you develop yourself and how do you add more value to what you currently do, or what you've been doing so far. Now, just think about an accountant who is able to build the management accounts, build the financial statements, and just shares this on an Excel document to management, and an accountant who is able to do the management accounts, build financial statements, and then build a dashboard that clearly communicates all of this information and then sends it to management. Which of these do you think management would place more? Which of this person do you think management would be more keen to work with?
Yes, definitely. The person that can use Power BI for modeling of the data, because it brings more to the table than just using the Excel workbook or QuickBooks to present the reports. So I feel it's about adding more value to the company, right? Or wherever
Exactly.
you find
Not just to the company, but to yourself. Now think about, again, in the job market, you're applying to new jobs and all of that. They're asking for an accountant. But on your CV, you have it clearly stated that you also have Power BI in your skill sets. Again, I mean, if I was the owner of a company, or if I was HR and I was interviewing somebody, if I was interviewing two people, both of them seem to understand accounting concepts. In terms of accounting, they are both on the same level. But I see one person that can use Microsoft Power BI, and I see another person that cannot use Microsoft Power BI. Who am I going to give preference to?
You want to give preference to the person that can use Power BI because it brings more value to the company.
Exactly. So again, I would say in terms of account, it's really just going with the trend and adding value to yourself, not just the company, but to yourself also. So you're able to do more, you're able to learn more, you're also going to be able to sell yourself better. It also gives you, to be honest, if you know how to use Power BI, if you master Power BI, again, like I said, it's not really just about data visualization. Trust me, my organization where we work, if I talk about the dashboard we build, I'll say our dashboard are 30% visuals, 70% analysis. Like the calculations you can do with Power BI is way more advanced than what you can do in Excel. It also just gives you that ability, that skill set. And it's also just think about it, okay, you've been doing accounting for a while. I mean, it gives you that opportunity to just go into a different job space. You might start using Power BI and then you feel like, oh, I actually enjoy this thing. Another thing it also does is similar to how accounting is, it also entering into different industries. For example, you can go into tech industry because everybody wants somebody who can help them make sense of their data. You can go into the pharmaceutical industry, you can go into the medical industry because, again, in all of this industry, there are data sets. There are data sets, whether it's accounting, whether it's user data, whether it's consumer data, and management does not want to go through 3 million rows of Excel data. They want somebody who can easily just help them make sense of those 3 million rows and put it in, whether it's line charts, pie charts, bar charts, or whatever. Just having this knowledge just gives you better opportunities to switch industries, switch companies, feel better about yourself, feel more competent, and all of that. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Shegun said, can Power BI be used for financial modeling or detailing data? I can't really speak to that because I'm not an expert with financial modeling. So I don't really know much about, I mean, I hear it a lot, but I'm not sure. Again, maybe Accounting Yard Dele can help with this because he's also familiar with these tools. But I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what financial modeling is.
So
Dele, do you want to help with this?
my immediate response would be no, right? To the best of my knowledge. I may be wrong, but I'll say no. And this is why I would say that, right? Except Power BI can be used from an element of forecasting, right? Then it will obviously not have a limitation in terms of financial modeling. Financial modeling is more futuristic and is driven based on parameters, right? So I wouldn't say that Power BI can do or build financial models. Yeah.
Okay, but my question, Dele, is the financial models you're building, aren't they based on formulas? I mean, they are futuristic, but aren't they all just based on formulas?
Yes, they are based on formulas and inputs that drive those formulas, right? So you have basically you have formulas, right? And you have you have parameters in those functions, and you have those inputs to now basically build them, right?
Then yeah, based off of that, I would say again, if it's driven by formulas and parameters, inputs, I would say yes, Power BI can do that. Power BI would be able to do it. It might not be as straightforward as maybe using Excel, but yeah, as long as it's formula driven, and like I said, Power BI can perform way more calculations than Excel does. So, I mean, my thoughts to that is, if you can do it on Excel, you can do it on Power BI.
Okay.
Anything you can do on Excel, you can do on Power BI, really.
All right. Yeah, that's a new learning for me.
All right, thanks, Segun. That was an interesting question. So yeah, any other question? I think we're already getting close to the end. I mean, if you look at this slide there, I have practical session here. So initially I was planning that we could do something on maybe just do something very basic, but apparently we don't have the time. But again, one thing I can let you guys know is I'll definitely discuss with Dele, that's the co-founder of Accounting Yard, and we'll see if we can schedule another time that will be focused solely on practical session. Can you have my contact number? I mean, not really. I mean, let me just put my LinkedIn profile here. So I think the best way to connect with me would be LinkedIn. And through LinkedIn, we can talk and can communicate with each other. So linkedin.com. So yeah. So I just put my LinkedIn profile in the chat box, so you can all connect with me, ask your questions and all of that. Okay. If there are no other questions, I think that's all from my end. That's all from my end. Again, thank you very much, guys, for attending this. It's not always easy to take out time from your busy weekends or your weekend schedule to attend all these webinars. And it's actually interesting to see that there are so many people who are interested in learning to use Power BI and upskilling themselves. So, I mean, it just shows. I mean, to be honest, I actually like this a lot. So thanks everyone, and Dele, over to you.
All right. So Taufik, thanks a lot for your time, and we really appreciate the fact that you're able to make out time for this webinar. And I'm sure everybody has learned one or two from this webinar. All right, and I'm sure everybody's looking forward to the next opportunity to have a practical section, right? And even myself, I'm looking forward to that. So I'll say thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time, and looking forward to you learning and following Accounting Yard. For those who are not following Accounting Yard, right,